General that they are pulling in the big fish with this net of a state of emergency?
Well, my knowledge is you're catching a lot of small fish and a few medium-sized fish. Now, let me tell you this, Wazir. Why I favor the state of emergency also is concerning what we call the big fish, the sharks, and the untouchables. Because, I will tell you, where the society has gone, the issue, the penetration of what we call the local mafia, the narco-trafficking trade, the penetration into almost every legitimate institution is so profound that you will not be able to touch those guys without a huge society fallout. So you need to have some restrictions on the society, and all of us have to decide to a certain extent to give up our rights without being abused. I repeat that, without being abused. Are
you fearful that this could be abused? The PNM is suggesting, well, okay, they get 3 months. Maybe they could vote in another 3 months, and then afterwards come with another justification for an extension of the state of emergency. We could become a Egypt 20 years under
well,
state
let's
of
come
emergency.
to the issue of the 3 months. I was hoping, I see the news, and these are the godfathers of the drug trade. Let me go to Al Capone. You know what took down Al Capone was the IRS, you know. And now we come to the issue of the FIU. And whether it is the opposition leader, whoever seen it, once it is true, it is true. We cannot have a floundering FIU without a leader. Now, we understand, and I saw in the media this morning, I think in the Express, that the person who was selected by, I think, the Public Service Commission was vetoed. So I'm going to encourage government to fill that post as quickly as possible, because there is no way. You're not going to catch the untouchables with cocaine in their backyard or a gun like in Beetham Gardens, you know, under their house, dug and buried. You will not find that. But you have to find creative ways of taking them down. Because these are the guys who imported 22 million, 50 million. And by the way, what I tell you was disappointing in the debate. It lacked research in some areas. I heard opposition politicians say when they got the $750 million worth of cocaine, there was no fallout. There was no big, where is she living? There was a fallout. A building was burned to the ground. All right? People lost their lives. A lot of damage took place there. So never think that you could have 22 million or 100 million or 700 million cocaine just seized there and nothing happens after that.
Well, you asked the question, where are they living? We know where they are living. They are playing to the gallery. They are playing to their audience. They are playing to the media, who will pick up on any sort of nice voice bit, nice sound bite. And as a result of that, are you in any way satisfied that this government or the opposition are dealing honestly and truthfully with the scourge of crime and the causes of crime in Trinidad and Tobago?
Disappointment, disappointment. And I'll tell you why I say that. It is unfortunate that we have reached where we have reached, and the politics is so adversarial. You know what this requires? There's no one party, neither government, UNC, COP, PNM, that can handle the issues, you know, in isolation. You've got to have a synergy, a collaboration, and that is what we're not having. It's just scoring points. And I keep saying just scoring points. That is why one member could say, after they see 750 million off Monas Island, there was no backlash. I mean, there was no backlash. There will always be a backlash. And I want to come to the issue of businessmen in this society. I have said before, and let me say it again. And these are the critical issues that government and opposition and other NGOs must come together on. There is no consistently crooked cop that doesn't have perhaps a lawyer, a politician, and a businessman in his space. None. All right? That to my mind is very serious. And I find it very disingenuous for top gurus in the business world to operate as if they don't have colleagues involved in this trade. All right? Listen, to be frank with you, the people with the power in this country are really the untouchables, you know, the drug lords. So what you have is that those who sit in parliament, all right, are being challenged by the population right now to touch them.
But how is that going to be done in a country that is so fundamentally corrupt, Pastor Dottin, where I could kill a man and buy my way out of trouble?
But let me go further to that and tell you why. That is why, unless the state of emergency deals with some of those guys, we would have failed.
Now, sorry to interrupt, and I know you're very, sorry for being impolite. But we know that after this is all said and done, in the same way with CIB, CLICO, and HCU to a lesser extent, those who are responsible for that, in the same way that those who are responsible for crime, who are financing it, who are funding it, who are the main men behind, they will not be touched.
Well, let me come at you. I tell you, once every man and nation comes a moment to decide. And this is our moment right now. If we go through the state of emergency and don't deal with some of those fundamental issues, we'll collapse at the center. We are already collapsing at the center. And we'll collapse on the periphery. Let me give you one example of why I'm saying our options have been reduced. Let me go to the issue of the Jonestown massacre, I call it, where the 4 people were shot and killed. My information suggests to me that, of course, that was a hit. And obviously, when you see those guys being hit, like in those areas, all right, what you have is that somebody wasn't paid on time, or somebody played smart with drug money, sold the drugs and gave up the money. What we have in Trinidad and Tobago right now, that's why I say we need a state of emergency, but it's how we implement it. And we must go to all the classes, and all the levels in the society. What you have happening is that you have significant business players in this country who have thugs in their employ, all right? And as soon as something goes wrong with the trade, they can employ those thugs at a moment's notice to execute, all right, the unfaithful workers in their trade. That's number one. And that, to my mind, is a very significant thing. That's why I'm saying right now, we don't have a choice. We've got to move, and there are significant citizens on the ground, honest, mature, responsible citizens who are saying we must move. The next thing is this. We have not to reinvent my lot and my path. I'm making an appeal to the government. With all the hair left on my head, I'm making an appeal to the government.
But you wouldn't have none left, because the point is that they have watered it down. That is the accusation. They have shifted it to another ministry, and they have watered down the exercise.
But now we're having other programs being announced, you understand? So is
it about credit? Is it about we don't want to give credit for PNM thing?
Maybe.
We want to come up with our own thing.
Well, that is the problem of the political system in our country. The myopia that literally murdering us. But we must not keep quiet. We must go out there. The other thing I want to say, you have people like Shabody, you have people like Brian Johnson, you have people like Sergeant Hossain, you have Sheila Prince in Beetham Estate doing a fantastic job. What I'm saying is, let us find out those who are doing very well and empower them, rather than set up a set of committees to reinvent the wheel.
Well, if they just form another committee, Dr. Selwyn Ryan is doing another committee to go to the
I read where he said he's happy to be part of this, and it's a big challenge.
Another old talk session.
But we would hope not. But what I'm saying is, I'm saying to the powers that be, you have a number of great programs on the ground where people are making sacrifices. You know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. In fact, listen, the solution's screaming at you in your face, you know.
But they don't want to do it.
All right, look at Shabody. He has a suspension center. Long before the minister, Gopi Singh, spoke about the issue, he already has a suspension center with very limited funding too. In fact, he's accused by both sides. He's accused by some of those in the authority of trying to score points. And he's accused by the drug lords in Diego Martin of using the boys as informers. Nothing could be further from the truth. You know, people ask me, I've been campaign manager for Shabody, but they might say I'm a campaign manager for Sheila Prince and Beetham Estate too, or for Brian Jones and Love Until Foundation.
You know only too well, no good deed, especially in this country called Trinidad and Tobago, goes unpunished. No good deed. You try to do good in this country, somebody will bring you down.
I think my time ran on, but let me just make this point. It's running on. Okay, praise the Lord. Listen, watch at how we have lost our teens. 19-year-old charged for shooting the bodyguard. 19-year-old charged, and I'm making an appeal for him because the spotlight is on him with the $22 million worth of cocaine. And I want to appeal to the national security and the prison officers. We don't want to find that guy dead in a cell. I'm saying that. I represented the parents, but I represented the wider community. We don't want to find that guy dead in a cell because he may or may not have information, but it will be a tragedy. It will be an act of quintessential injustice if that boy pays the price, okay, while the big fish and the drug lords who imported the cocaine, somebody with a huge sum of money imported that cocaine. And by the way, I'm calling the authorities to look at another issue. How come Colombians could slip in and slip out of the country with ease, with consummate ease? We have got to look at that. The issue of money. Yes, but I'm saying, let me tell you something. I believe there's a God above. I believe you believe there's a God above. And there is something we call divine accountability, which we've got to look at. Now, the issue of schools. I heard the Prime Minister say adopt a school. But there are organizations already in the schools. I'm saying, let us empower them. The Girl Guides, the cadets, the pathfinders, the master guides, let's empower them. Let's empower the leadership. Let's invest money in training more leaders in that program. The Police Youth Club, excellent program. I am saying, let us revisit what is working. Milet and my part, go back to the drawing board and let's get it in Central, let's get it in the Southeast, let's get it in the Southwest. If a thing is working, hello there, give it support.
Before we close, let me just read this for you. Someone
Yeah.
is saying the police need a permanent state of emergency to arrest suspects. It seems as though police can't do their work under normal conditions, hence the reason for a state of emergency. You realize what some people are saying?
Of course, of course.
As much as it is a suspension of their civil rights and freedoms and liberties, they rather this, Pastor Dottin, that what went on prior to the announcement of a state of emergency.
And that is the truth, because we cannot have a permanent state of emergency all the time. What you're going to have? You know what my fear, and I want the government to listen to this very carefully. While I wanted an extension by about a month, okay, because you might discover things you didn't know before. Let me just say this. It would be very unfortunate if during the state of emergency, the murders keep recurring. And then you would tell yourself, you've tried your last shot and your best shot. What will happen after that? What will happen is anarchy. Will happen after that.
And that is what Coleman was saying before. Whether we want to discredit him, whether we want to say it's opposition politics, people are saying a state of emergency should be a last card in the deck. You play it now. What happens if it doesn't bring
and
the
by
result?
the way, it's not yet 2 years in their governance, sir.
It's
It
only
is
a
not
year and a
yet
piece.
a year and a piece. So I am saying, all of us love this country. Sunday, and
You
the
really
role of
think-
sport.
You
the
really
role of
think that,
sport.
Pastor Dottin? You
No,
really
no,
think that
no,
all of us
right,
love this country?
all of us don't love the country. But you and I are not here, that's right. But I am saying, there are a lot of people who love the country.
But there are
some
influential
who
people,
put
Pastor
self-
Dottin, who don't. And I know you wanted to touch on the sport with
Yes.
how we love our football and our track and field athletes and so on. But aren't there people who only love themselves and who are prepared to do whatever it takes to have their way?
Right, and that is the problem with our society. That's why we have to keep talking to the issue of the churches. The church has a role to play here too, you know.
Has the churches, and I've asked you this
the
question.
church has
Have
a role
the
to play.
religious leaders failed? Have they failed?
Sometimes we have failed and sometimes we have succeeded. But there's a role to play. For example, there's a collapse of family life. I have worked in the East-West corridor. I've worked in some other areas too, Penal and Mayar, and I could tell you there's a LCM pushing through a lot of our depressed communities, and that is the fathers are missing and not responsible. And to my mind, the church has to play a greater role in terms of the promotion and sustainability of family life. We have a role to play in the schools. Before army and police go in jointly to those schools, we of the church must be found in there. And I'm saying the government's role has got to be the issue of ensuring safety and security. Our role as a church has got to be the transmission of positive and